Treyarch have just released the Black Ops 6 Zombies mode prep intel, and while there's a ton of exciting stuff we can unpack from this, I want to take a look at the Augments in today's video. If you aren't familiar with what Augments are, they're basically a repackage of the skills section from Cold War where we could upgrade perks and ammo mods, etc. But in Black Ops 6, starting from level 11, we can start to research Augments. On launch, there's 108 Augments available to unlock. Each Perk-A-Cola, ammo mod and field upgrade have 6 to unlock, split into 3 major and 3 minor Augments, with the minor Augments offering a limited advantage to the item usually during use, and the major offering a substantial advantage to the behaviour of the item usually during use as well. To start researching an Augment, we have to simply select it before we go into a game and start earning XP to make progress towards unlocking it. And once we've unlocked them, we can choose 1 major and 1 minor Augment to equip before the start of a match. Now that we're familiar with Augments, let's dive in and find out what the benefits of each of these are. Kicking things off with probably the most important of these 3, we've got the Perk-A-Cola Augments. Starting us off with Juggernog. At base, when we buy the perk, it'll increase our maximum health by 100 as you'd expect, and its first major Augment is called Probiotic. This will slightly increase the maximum health further with Juggernog equipped. Turtle Shell will turn our armor into a shield and completely absorb damage from the back, while Reactive Armor stuns nearby enemies for a short amount of time when an armor plate is broken. As for its minor Augments, Retaliation deals bonus damage while health is low, Hardened Plates means armor plates have more damage mitigation, and Durable Plates will slightly increase the armor durability. Now, before we make the decision on which is the best to use, we obviously haven't seen any gameplay of these Augments yet, so this is purely off theory. So with that being said, Turtle Shell and Durable Plates are probably the one to go for here and are the best combo. All damage from behind will be absorbed by armor, and Durable Plates will mean we have more time to do that. Next up is Stamina. At base, it increases movement speed, Shocker, and its major Augments include Free Faller, which lets us become immune to fall damage, Dasher, which increases attack sprint duration, and Stalker, which makes us walk faster while aiming. Its minor Augments include Hard Target, which reduces projectile damage while attack sprinting, Quarterback will allow us to use equipment while normal sprinting, and Hot Foot allows us to gain a speed boost after equipment kills an enemy. If Cold War's anything to go off, equipment's still going to be very important this year, so Quarterback is going to be a must for the minor Augment for Stamina. As for the major Augments, Free Faller being listed here is quite interesting, as it sounds like PhD doesn't make you immune to fall damage anymore, and if that is the case, Free Faller is probably the one to go for. If not, Dasher would be better, but it is definitely very interesting the fact they've taken that feature away from PhD. Anyway, moving on to Speed Collar, which at base will allow us to reload weapons and replay armor faster. Its major Augments include Supercharge, which recharges field upgrades a bit faster. We've got Classic Formula, which makes reload speed even faster, and Phantom Reload, which slowly refills weapon magazines over time. Speedy Roulette is the first of the minor Augments, which allows the mystery box to settle much faster, while Quick Swap lets you swap weapons faster, and Fast Pitcher lets you deploy equipment faster. If you're looking to push those high rounds, then Fast Pitcher is definitely going to be important, as again, equipment seems to be very strong, and if we're presuming that the reload speeds become practically instant like they were in Cold War, then Classic Formula is definitely the one to go for on the major side. Deadshot Daiquiri is the next to return, and will improve ADS precision and increase critical damage. They get super creative with the Augment names here, it's great. We've got Deadhead for a further increase in critical damage, Dead First to deal double critical damage if an enemy is at full health, and Dead Again means critical hits have a chance of adding a bullet to our magazine. The creativity doesn't stop there, as for the minor Augments we've got Dead Break to increase damage to armor pieces, Dead Draw to reduce hip fire spread, and Dead Set to reduce gun movement while performing advanced movement. On a serious note though, the best combo here is probably going to be Dead First and Dead Break. Double critical damage is too good not to be taken advantage of, and the armor pieces were really strong in Cold War, so Dead Break is going to be very key. Next up we got Quick Revive, which at base recovers health and revives allies faster. For mages we've got EMT, reviving an ally allows them to keep all of their perks on their bleed out bar. Equivalent Exchange will allow us to kill an enemy while down to revive us. This will remove Quick Revive and can be done up to 3 times a game, while Dying Wish will save us on 1 health and make us immune to all damage for 2 seconds, but Quick Revive is removed on use. For the minor Augment, Swift Recovery gives us a boost in movement speed after reviving an ally for a short amount of time. Comic Return will return us to full health when we revive an ally, and Slow Death will increase our time in Last Stand. Before we pick which would be the best, it's probably worth noting here that this is the perk that really shows that you need to change your Augments between solo and multiplayer, as things like EMT, while they sound really good, they're completely irrelevant to solo, and 2 of the 3 minor Augments here are completely irrelevant to solo too. With that being said, for solo, Equivalent Exchange and Slow Death are probably the best, and when you're part of a team, EMT and Swift Recovery are probably the ones to go for. Moving on next, we've got Elemental Pop, which triggers random ammo mods. For the majors, we've got Citrus Focus, which while we have a weapon that has an ammo mod applied, Elemental Pop will only activate said ammo mod. This is going to be very important when we take a look at the ammo mod Augments later. Imperil Peach, which can activate a random ammo mod when an enemy hits you, and the fall off of Electric Cherry needs to be studied. It's now an Augment, in before it becomes a Gobblegum in the next game. For the minor Augments, we've got Vulnerabine, which will slightly increase elemental weakness damage. This is something something to keep an eye on, as this was very important for taking down bosses in Cold War. But we've then got Pineapple Blast, which gives equipment a chance to trigger a random ammo mod, and Chill Berry to slightly reduce all ammo mod cooldowns. Citrus Focus is definitely going to be the major augment here, and we'll take a look at why later when we take a look at the ammo mod augments, while Vulnerability just edges out Pineapple Blast, as that damage to bosses is so important. Anyway, next up we got PhD Flopper, and they basically confirm what we speculated before. This only does explosive dive to prone and immunity to self-inflicted explosive damage. No mention at all of immunity to fall damage, so that augment for stamina is looking a little bit nicer now. Gravity MD is the first of our major augments, and that means that we just have to fall from heights to create explosions rather than diving. Dr. Ram will let us knock down and damage base zombies while tactical sprinting, and PhD Slider will trigger explosions when sliding into enemies. On the minor augment side, Environmentalist will make us immune to environmental damage while sliding. EOD Technician will slightly reduce the height and distance requirements for explosions, while Tribologist increases the sliding distance and speed. So by the sound of it, PhD Flopper has basically been reduced to a movement perk, a bit like Stamina, so I'm going to go for Dr. Ram for the major and Tribologist for the minor augments. And last but not least, we've got the new addition of Melee Macchiato, which if you aren't familiar with, replaces your weapon gun butt with a deadly punch similar to that of the Thunder Fist from Origins. Its major augments include Espresso, which makes all melee attacks slightly faster, Vampiric Extraction, which heals a small amount of our health when doing melee attacks, and Triple Shot, which means our punch can hit multiple enemies at once. On the minor side, we've got Stick and Move, which increases backpedal speed after a successful melee attack, Strength Training, which means our punch can one-hit kill normal enemies for longer, and Hidden Impact, which means our melee kills reload a portion of our held weapon. I don't really see myself having an opportunity to be doing too many melee attacks, so with that being said, I'd probably go for Triple Shot and Strength Training, just so if it happens, it's going to be good. Moving on, next we've got ammo mods. If you weren't aware, these are now purchasable at the Arsenal machine using salvage rather than at the Pack-A-Punch machine. And while Shatter Blast goes out from Cold War, Shadow Rift comes in. This bullet deals shadow damage, and each bullet has a chance to spawn a black hole if striking normal or special zombies, warping nearby zombies away and dropping some from the air at high speed. Its major augments include Big Game, which lets Shadow Rift activate on elite enemies, Topple Danger, which will warp one enemy that deals shadow damage to others, and Explosive Rain, which means that enemies that are dropped from portals will explode on contact with the ground. Its minor augments include Haste, which means the Shadow Rift cooldown's reduced, Targeted, which means dropped enemies will fall on other enemies, and Supermassive, the Singularity's lethal radius is increased and can kill more enemies. I think they designed these augments for Explosive Rain and Targeted to go together, so that's what we're going to go for. It seems the best anyway. Next up we got Brain Rot. The major augments are Plague, the charmed enemy has a chance to turn other enemies, Pheromone, which means that the charmed enemy distracts nearby normal and specials for a short time, and Big Game, which means that Brain Rot can charm elite enemies. Probably worth noting that each one of these has Big Game as a major augment, so we won't go over that every single time, but it basically just allows the effect to work on elites. Anyway, its minor augments include Extension, which means the Brain Rot duration is slightly increased, Haste, which means the Brain Rot cooldown is slightly reduced, and Explosive, which means the charmed enemies explode and cause toxic damage at the end of its duration. The two I'd go for here is Pheromone and Explosive. It effectively turns Brain Rot into a Monkey Bomb, which sounds like it could be quite overpowered with the addition of Elemental Pop. Next up, returning is Cryo Freeze, and its major augments include Big Game, Ice Cloud, which means that enemies that are killed while frozen may leave a cloud that slows enemies, and Frozen Stiff, which means enemies are frozen in place. Probably also worth mentioning that Extension is a minor augment for all of these bar Shadow Rift. But Cryo Freeze has Freeze Burn, which will significantly increase damage to frozen enemies, while Liquid Nitrogen will significantly increase the chance for Cryo Freeze to activate it. Deadwire also returns, and Chain Lightning is the first of the major augments, and the stunned enemy can spread the stun to others. It's got Big Game obviously, and then Lightning Strike, a bolt of lightning strikes from above, stunning all normal and special enemies in the area. This sounds pretty sick. On the minor side, we've obviously got Extension, Haste, Deadwire cooldown is slightly reduced, and High Voltage, Deadwire deals slightly more damage. As cool as Lightning Strike sounds, I'm gonna have to go with Chain Lightning and High Voltage just because they sound the best, but you're definitely gonna catch me trying Lightning Strike in my first few games. And last but not least for the ammo mods, we've got Napalm Burst. For its majors, we've got Big Game, Thermite to increase burn effect damage, and Firebomb. Burned enemies explode on death, spreading the fire to nearby enemies. On the minor side, we've got Extension, Incendiary. Each damage tick has a small chance to spread to a nearby enemy, and Contact Burn, initial burn effect deals more damage. And for this, I'd be going with Firebomb and Incendiary because it would make the area of effect just massive. Last but not least, moving on to field upgrade augments, Ring of Fire leaves from Cold War and Dark Flare comes in. On activation, we generate a massive energy beam that deals lethal shadow damage, and the beam penetrates anything in its path. For its majors, it's got Extension, Supernova, which means the beam is replaced with a sphere that damages nearby enemies as it travels, the ball detonates at the end of its duration, and then we've got Dark Pact, the beam heals and revives other players on contact. On the minor side, we've got Broad Beam to significantly increase the size of the beam, Heavy Shadow to slow enemies on contact, and Extra Charge to increase max charges by 1. Ether Shroud makes its way back from Cold War. Its major augments include Group Shroud, which nearby enemies are also cloaked, Burst Dash, which makes us warp forward for a short distance, killing all normal enemies in our path, and then Void Sheath, which imbues our dedicated melee weapon with Dark Ether energy, and kills allow us to stay in Ether Shroud for longer. Its minor augments include Extension, Extra Charge, and Instant Reload, which are all pretty self-explanatory. And for this, I would go with Burst Dash and Instant Reload, just for DPS sake. Also making its return from Cold War is Frenzied Guard. Its majors include Phalanx. Teammates can also repair armor from kills while near you. Retribution, which triggers an explosion on activation. Normal enemies that melee the player are damaged and knocked down. And Frenzy Fire, which means that while frenzied, it uses ammo from stock. Its minors include Extension, Repair Boost, which will repair more armor per kill, and Rally, which means that on activation, it will repair all nearby teammates' armor to full. We've then got Healing Aura, which for the mages has Resilience. All affected players will have their health regeneration delay reduced and their rate of healing increased temporarily. Enduring Radiance, the beams and their healing effects persist for a short time after leaving the area of effect. And then Persistence, which is the same as EMT, revive players keep all perks on their bleed out bar. Now it does obviously call for conflict with Quick Revive, but I don't really see myself using Healing Aura much, but if I was, I would use Persistence. And as for the minor augments, we've got Inner Strength, affected player damage is slightly increased for a short time, Protection, healed players have damage slightly mitigated for a short time, and Stoic Presence on activation, special and elite enemies are stunned while normal enemies are knocked down. For the sake of boss fights here, I'd probably go for Stoic Presence, it seems like it could be pretty overpowered. And finally, we've got Energy Mine. Its major augments include Scatter. The Energy Mine will split into 3 mines that scatter and detonate 1 time each. We've got Turret, and instead of a mine, it deploys a turret that shoots at the nearest enemy. And then we've got Carousel. 3 energy mines will float around you, detonating when an enemy is nearby. On the minor side, we've got Frequency Boost, which increases the detonation count and duration, Extra Charge, and then Siren, which means the Energy Mine now attracts nearby normal enemies for a short time, which, combined with Turret on the major side, can make a pretty good monkey bomb as well. And that is all 108 augments available on launch on Black Ops 6 Zombies. Again, like we said before, it's very important to note that we haven't seen gameplay of these augments yet. It's probably going to change when the game comes out, but just on theory based on how this sounds, these look like they're going to be the standout augments. So all in all, make sure you're trying to unlock these augments as soon as you hit level 11 on launch. And if you found any of this information useful for your pre-game strategy, make sure you drop a like and subscribe and turn on notifications for more pre-launch breakdowns, as well as many guides and how-tos post-release.